Hello. I'm going to come on video to talk a little bit about how we can increase our psychic and intuitive guidance. During times like what's happening right now, a lot of us are really struggling because people don't feel like they have that intuitive ability to tap in and get, reassurance from spirit or the guides or their intuition on issues that are happening now. We kind of go into this frantic, what if, what do I got to do mode, when actually most of the time we're just being asked to step back, observe for a while, and try not to react and just kind of go with the flow. There's times, and this is probably one of the largest ones I've experienced, where going into that ease of not trying to do too much is really important, but we're so conditioned to be doing all the time that it's just this conflict to stop, to just trust that things are going to be okay, trust that things will work out. And even though there are bad things that are happening and there are people in difficult situations, we just have to kind of remain as calm as possible as we can and just offer to help, as we can, as that's all happening. So, but we can't help everyone. It's just kind of what you can do in your own little world, your own little community, and your own outreach. Specifically, like if you can do distant healing type stuff, or meditations or yoga classes online, that type of thing. There's so many people coming out and really helping. So it's really a phenomenal thing to see people giving so much of their time, for free, really, time for free to help people to, get somewhere and not go stir crazy during this time, because the calmer we are, the better this can all go. So what I wanted to talk about, and it kind of came up during the little meeting I had opened up the other day for anyone that was kind of, bored or whatever. And we were ended up talking about, how much I would love to just hand over the gift of having, that guide or that intuition to know, and have that reassurance there whenever you want it. But knowing from my experience, it takes a lot of work to get there. Having that guidance was not something that just came on instantly. It was learned through, having to deal with my own stuff, having to work through past trauma, having to go through some tough experiences, and really putting the time in to get connected, to listen, to trust, and keep going forward, even though, I wasn't 100% sure about, things at the time. And learning to discern between what was real and what wasn't, and what was intuition and what wasn't. And, it's that type of stuff. It's a tricky thing to learn. So I wanted to come on here and just give kind of some quick tips on what to do, since a lot of the people have extra time. This might be something good to kind of work and cultivate. It doesn't take much time. Um, the first thing is to be aware of where you are. Guidance is clear if you are calm about a situation. So if you are desperate for an answer, or you're angry about something, or there's some really heavy emotion there, and you're trying to get guidance on it, you probably won't, one, trust the guidance, or two, you potentially are interfering that information with your own energy and its interaction with it. So um, I've seen it with healings, and I've seen it with mediumship clients, that if you are desperate for information or desperate for something specific, depending on where you're coming from with that desperation, if it's true desperation, it seems to create sort of a resistance or a block to the information coming. It's harder to access, it's harder to get through. If you're coming from it from a high motivated need to want to have the information, it's a little bit different with how that energy kind of interacts with the rest of the energy that needs to come through to get the information. So you have to make sure that you're not in a desperate state trying to get information. That's why so many people recommend that during meditation is when you try and get guidance. It's also why a lot of people have experiences during their dreams, because in a dream state, you can't interfere with the information coming in the same way that you can while you're awake. A lot of people recommend also, going for walks, doing monotonous things that kind of put you in the zone, so to speak. You know, that zone when you're kind of in it and you don't realize that how much time has gone by. It's the same feeling. If you're in that kind of zone, the guidance can come in so quickly and so clearly. And if you can kind of train yourself to just be able to be in that kind of in that zone, you're not going to be in it all the time. We live a life, but if you can get into that zone frequently throughout the day, that's when you just feel like you just have the guidance all the time. So you need to know where you are in your own space, like in your mind, and really try and get to a really calm space before you really attempt to try and get any clear validation for yourself on something. You need to open yourself up, and you have to trust. You have to learn the difference between when your mind is interfering with the information and when the information comes in so quickly and so clearly that you know it wasn't you thinking it. You then have to be able to trust that information, act on that information, and then over and over after you experience that validation of having that guidance and that, you know, the result that came from you following the guidance. Once that's happened, probably 1,000 times, you will start to really train yourself to be able to just kind of act whenever you have that guidance. And also, the guidance sometimes can be very, very subtle. So a lot of us want the bells and the whistles, and we want the fireworks to go off to kind of show us that job we want or show us that road we should go down, when it is probably 80% not like that. A lot of times it is an extremely subtle feeling that comes on quick and it leaves. It's that kind of catch your breath kind of feeling. And that is when you have to really trust that, you know, either your external guidance is coming in or your internal intuition is kicking in. But those two things work hand in hand. So you just have to learn to kind of understand, like, okay, this was an intuitive thing. I need to follow this, or this is just my mind coming up with a scenario that I shouldn't be, you know, following. So you need to be open. If you are closed off and you're having trust issues, it's going to close off your energy to a certain extent. I've seen this with clients. The clients that are hardest to read are the ones that mentally don't believe in the work that I do, or they have a fear that, you know, they don't want to handle the stuff that they have to deal with, or they have some kind of conditioning or thoughts going on. There's always something resistant in there. The most fantastic readings and healings happen to people that don't have that are open and are flexible with their energy. So if you are closed off, if you have trust issues, if you have healing that needs done, sometimes that can interfere with those, you know, the spirit guides or the guidance or the intuition being correct or dead on, because you are kind of interfering that with being resistant to something. So it's really about having that energy be at ease, so it's easier to kind of interact and give you that information. So and learning to be quiet is really important. I used to have the busy mind. I used to not be able to sleep because my mind would keep me up. I guess I started reading a book before I went to bed, and that kind of slowed it down. And then just as I've developed into not being a worrier and not being a type A personality anymore and not being a perfectionist anymore, a lot of that mind chatter has completely quieted down. So unless I'm dealing with an overwhelming kind of day, I'm fairly quiet in my mind. I'm not going over and over and over things. So it allows that guidance to come in. It allows my spirit guide access to me so that, you know, if I ask a question, I get an answer. It helps me connect with spirit. So having that quiet mind is really important. And it does, if you're not already there, it does take a lot of training of yourself to get to that point. So that is when you kind of just have to learn how to quiet your mind. There's really no good pointers because it's really very individual as to kind of how you think and how you process things and what makes you overanalyze, that type of thing. So it's really very individual, but it is doable. You can get to the point where your mind is quiet. You just have to kind of do the work. I mean, it's sort of like a mini workout that, you know, everything dealing with spirit and healing and connections and all of that really have a huge piece of discipline in it. So if you have trouble being disciplined in different things, then it's going to be more of a struggle for you than someone who can take on, you know, a goal and meet it. So the discipline of quieting your mind, the discipline of knowing your stuff and knowing where you are and not asking for guidance at the wrong time, that type of thing is really important for getting those connections to go. And then, if you would just rather have someone else give you that information, then it's great. There's all kinds of people out there, that can give you that good, crisp, clear, intuitive information. You just have to be very careful, about who you choose for that. If they don't resonate with you, or there's something that kind of makes you feel uncomfortable, then, I wouldn't go to that person. I would find something else. So I know that right now everyone's just kind of figuring out, like, what does the future hold? It feels like we have a giant pause button that's sort of being hit in different areas, and the pause button's sure to come to other towns. Our town has now had the non-essential jobs. Well, our state has had the non-essential jobs canceled now, so that changes some things. They're not putting us onto like a stay in place kind of thing, but we do have the job stuff happening, so that's going to bring up a lot for people, and it would be really good, like, for that day on the hike, to receive that information clearly. So usually, and I think I put this in my notes. Okay, yes. So if you tend to have a busy mind, it's not like you're not going to get any kind of information. It's just that instead of them switching to maybe making you feel or hearing something, because a lot of times for me, my guidance comes in, when I'm talking to spirit guides or spirit, I hear them talking a lot. Like, I can have a conversation with them as if they're standing next to me, or I'll feel something and I somehow, it's a feeling of knowing the information. So then I take that feeling and I put that all into words. And then I also get the vision type stuff. And if I'm not listening to any of that, then I'll get the actual physical thing that happens. So if you have a busy mind and you can't really turn that off, then you'll need to look for other symbols. Like a friend of mine, she finds coins all of the time, which is a sign from her dad that he's around. The dollar bill on our hike, was obviously a sign that, like, we were on track and we didn't need to worry. And, for that's huge. Financial stuff is huge for everyone to, have to be considering right now in this time of uncertainty. So know that if you're struggling, even after these tips, to kind of calm your mind and find a way to deal with that, look for those signs, and look for things beyond the, so many signs people connect to, like, what is it? Feathers and butterflies and cardinals, and look beyond those signs, because those signs will make you second guess them even more, because they're a very common sign. So look for the uncommon things that happen to give you reassurance that everything is okay. And, just reach out for each other right now. It's a perfect time to get back to that old fashioned time of, like, writing notes and sending cards and getting on the phone. Like, enjoy some of that. And try not to worry too much, and allow yourself to not be so busy. It's a really good time to kind of slow down and, just quiet and practice some of that self-care to get you more settled, to allow that. So I just wanted to say those things and bring that up, because oftentimes I think people get confused as to why they aren't getting that kind of information when they do feel like they're putting in the effort. It's a very rare thing that I've come across, and I don't even know that I've come across it much, that someone just instantly has that connection and they're on a roll. From what I witness, it takes, quite a bit of time to really cultivate that and get yourself balanced and everything, so that that information is good. And then you got to get to the point where you can trust and act on it. So I hope that is helpful. If you guys have any questions in the meantime, feel free to kind of post them, and I can always do videos and things. I am 100% shut down in the physical sense of my business. Everything is being moved to online distance sessions and classes for the time being. I'm hoping that we don't have to be shut down for too long, because it's weird to not be, massaging people. So it'll be interesting to see how this all goes, but we just stay in a good mindset and, try not to worry too much. So I hope you guys are having a good day. It's Monday. So I will see you guys later. Thank you.